Is the new Google Pixel Fold, the only foldable phone engineered by Google. It's just as amazing as unfolded. A tablet size screen when you move, and a smartphone size smartphone when you walk. Pre-order Google Pixel Fold and get Pixel. Break the loop at breathofstressair.com.
I'm not supposed to be sharing this with you, so listen closely before it gets taken down.
They probably have been told only about a book or a TV show or whatever. So hi, I'm Douglas Vogt from the Diehl Foundation. This is May 5th, 2023, and this is video series 4 on the Ice Age and Polar Reversal, part 6G. And we're going to cover U.S. government surveying Puerto Rico, and you'll find out why. Department of Energy did a survey of all deep underground mines worldwide. You'll understand why. The UN started their own similar program like Senate Bill 4488. This is a pretty important video. You're going to understand what's going to happen. The Russians have picked up on my research, which was kind of a surprise. Anyway, the reason why I was able to figure out what causes the ice age and polar reversal, it all has to do with philosophy of science. Unless you have the right philosophy of how the universe really works, you cannot possibly figure out this very complicated and complex event, this polar reversal and cataclysm, and that the sun novas, why the Earth stops its rotation. It's all about philosophy, namely that the universe is the product of information. This is the third iteration of the book. I reprinted the second edition, was just out in 2023. I added 2 chapters on it. Who basically destroyed our science, namely the PISOs. And also I added the part about what I believe is the ultimate answer to the ultimate question: why was our universe created and how it will end? The next is, this is where I was in 2007. And in chapter 8 in this book, there's 392 references just in chapter 8, explaining what causes the ice age and polar reversals in gory details, but all scientific. This is the page for what the UN is doing. And you'll understand when I go through it a little later, you'll understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. One of my fans in Puerto Rico, his name is William, he gave me permission to use this thing. He sent me this letter saying basically he saw a certain type of plane owned by the USGS, that's U.S. Geological Survey, and they were flying north-south range pattern over Puerto Rico, very close to the ground, up and down. They're surveying it. Now, I don't know if they're using ground penetrating radar or it's just the laser to get the altitudes, but they're there, and it was just, he wrote at the end of March, and this happened in March, which is not that many months from Senate Bill 4488 and the amendment done, which was in December. So he identified the thing, and then he showed me a link of what the plane looked like. And this is from USGS website. This is the plane, and they explain it in USGS what it does and what it senses. This is a laser. It's funny, it's showing it's going across an island and basically mapping the thing. So I don't know if they're using ground penetrating radar like I mentioned, but it is interesting. The reason why it might be important is because, like I said in the videos, that you should be within the Tropic of Cancer or Tropic of Capricorn. In the tropics, basically, was warmer water. So the ice age is lessened. So Puerto Rico is the southernmost territory we have. And I think the Tropic of Cancer is about here. So it's 18 degrees, 30 minutes to 17 degrees, 54 minutes. And this is the island of Puerto Rico, or as they say, Puerto Rico. And we own a bunch of islands along here also, which I'll go into. Much, much smaller, obviously. Now, this is a topo map of Puerto Rico. You'll notice the mountain ranges basically go in an east-west direction. There's a reason for that, and you'll understand. I'll explain why in a few minutes. This is St. Thomas Island, due east of Puerto Rico. This stands for U.S. Virgin Island. I guess that's the district. Again, the mountain ranges run east and west. This is St. John's Island, again, our territory. More complicated, generally in the east-west, but they have a north-south mountain, which means probably compression this way. So some force here is pushing this way. This is what the problem is, that if the federal government, the Defense Department, is planning on drilling and making survival caves in Puerto Rico on one of these islands, the problem is this. This is a seduction zone. This is the Atlantic plate that we're on, continental United States is on. This is the Caribbean plate. Now, what's interesting to me is it goes down, this is like 5 miles of deep water. That's pretty deep. Here this thing really at the top of a mountain, what it is. But on the other side, not very far away, 16,500 feet, it's like 3 miles of water. I don't know why it's a straight line. It almost looks like a fall. I don't think it's another seduction zone, but USGS better investigate. What it does mean when you have this there is that at the time of the reversal, whoever builds a cave system here or the islands is going to have to worry about severe earthquakes. I mean, 8 to 10 on the Richter scale is going to last for not minutes, but hours until those plates settle down. It might even be for a whole day, on and off. It's going to be very frightening for anybody in a cave. Also, if they build these caves, you're going to have to use very strong concrete and a lot of steel girders.
It's hard to believe Nick's new family plan is just $15 a month per person. So I've asked Claire why. And plan yeah.
No, I just did it for the sector and the boring stuff.
The boring stuff. Yeah, I'm announcing a family plan where just 2 lines gets everyone a $15 price. I'm literally revolutionizing the category.
Yeah, she has me for this one.
Can you please let her know I'm upset? Right?
Brutal.
Guys, I'm not supposed to be sharing this with you, so listen closely before it gets taken down. Have you heard about these healthcare allowance spending cards people are getting right now just for signing up for a free healthcare plan? Well, I was talking to a buddy of mine that just got approved for $1,400 a month, and the card gets reloaded each and every month for free. It's unbelievable. So many people don't know about this. The best part is everybody making under $50,000 is literally entitled.
This is Virgin Islands, same situation, north of it, 14,500 feet, again, about 3 miles of ocean water. And here's 2 miles of ocean water just south of it. So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't discourage somebody if they have to build in the United States for property reasons or ownership reasons, then you can do it, but you're going to have to build these things very strong. Now to the National Labs. Why did the federal government want to do a survey of all known large caverns and tunnels and mine entrances worldwide. Now, I have this paper, and if you want to see a copy of it, it's like 26 pages or something like that. No, I take that. This one is 220 pages. It's mostly tables like this. Just write to me at info@Dynehole Foundation. I'll put you on my mailing list, and I'll send you the PDF of this file. It is interesting. I did a screenshot of, they even included Brazil, but they got all the countries. Now, why did they do that? They were basically saying in this, their excuse for doing this, like the first page showed, that they want to look for places to put highly radioactive waste products from reactors. So this is an IQ test. It's not what government says, it's what they do. So here's a report. Now they did this thing in June of 2017. That's about 9 months before I started doing my videos, but God's Air Judgment book was out, and I know DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, already had it, because they told me they had it. And so ask yourself the simple question: would a foreign country let the United States put their highly radioactive waste products in a cave in their country? The answer is obviously no. In fact, the country would probably tell them to go take the waste and shove it up your ass. And rightfully so, may I add. So it's obviously another reason they're doing this. And the only reason I can come up with is they were looking for places they could build shelters. And they looked all over the world, but a lot of them around the tropical areas, they're looking for places to build shelters and not for radioactive waste. Here's our famous Senegal 4488. Now, I'll give you two interesting points you have to think about. Whenever you write a book or do a video, it's like dropping a rock in a pool, a pond, or a lake, and it ripples out. And you never know where those ripples are going to land and affect something. Same thing is true for a book or a TV show or whatever. So all countries look at other countries, certainly the bigger ones, what laws are in the hopper, which ones they passed, how that affects them. When they saw this bill, I bet a lot of countries went to freak out. This bill, by the way, if you want to see them the first time you're seeing this, go to part 6E and 6F. I go through the whole thing there. It mentions the threat of human extinction, existential, is defined in there 17 times. And cataclysmic, I think, is 32 or 37 times. There's never been a U.S. bill written like this in U.S. history. It must have shocked them and said, what the hell is the United States doing? Why do they want this bill? I know it had an effect on the head of DHS because he didn't know anything about this stuff. He didn't know about Act 2, which is the cataclysm and polar reversal. He may have been originally told about a Carrington event, but Act 3 was way over the top. That's why the amendment, and I covered the amendment on part 6F, of why there was an amendment in December of last year. Anyway,
you're going to truly flip out when you find out how easy it is to get your hands on the money you need to buy a commercial property like one of these. And when you do, you'll never flip another house because you'll understand that commercial real estate is the secret to creating wealth on a timeline that makes sense for your life. I'm Peter Condry, co-author of Commercial Real Estate Investing for Dummies, and I'm hosting a 2-day virtual investing summit that will drop the curtain on all the secrets of buying commercial properties just like these without using your own money and completely change how you look at real estate permanently. This is the very best time in history to invest in commercial real estate, and anyone can do this. You see, the events of the last few years have radically altered how we use real estate. And as a result, there's massive change going on in the industry, whether it's in retail space, offices, self-storage, or apartments. And as ever, massive change creates massive opportunities for people willing to make a small investment in themselves. I changed my life with commercial real estate and secured a life of freedom for myself and my family because I discovered one thing. The profit on just one of these commercial deals can be 10 to 15 times the profit on one house flip. And it's basically the same amount of work and effort. Since I discovered this, I've shown hundreds of people just like you how to break free and secure their own financial future with commercial real estate. For less than the price of a dinner and a movie for two, I'm going to give you an opportunity to meet my syndication attorney, my own CPA, and my secret weapon, the founders of a special web portal we use on a daily basis to automatically attract, qualify, and engage investors to fund our deals. Click on the link below to find out how it doesn't take generations to build generational wealth. What is generational wealth? It's the kind of wealth that not only changes your life, but the lives of everyone around you that's important to you. That's how you bulletproof your financial future. In just 2 short days, from the comfort of your own home, you're going to learn everything you need to know about getting your first big commercial deal done and how that one deal can completely change your life forever. Would you like to use the greatest wealth creation machine in history to build your own generational wealth? Are you ready to make this year the year that you finally leave the rat race and the rest of your worries behind you? Then click on the link and I'll see you at the summit.
Congratulations! Congress just approved your Fresh Start relief package, and it will remove all your past due bills and credit cards.
Don't be shocked when the
The UN came up with their own version of a 4488. Now, I don't know how much they were told. By looking at this and reading it carefully, I have this one also. If you want it, tell me you want the UN report, I'll send it to you gladly. It's about 22 pages. The main issue is they don't necessarily know
What's
about
up?
full reversal, because they probably would be not writing this at all. It would be all under the table. But anyway, this is what it says basically. The word common agenda is very, very loaded term because they've come up with things that have been very undemocratic, basically trying to, they would in essence destroy the US Constitution. I don't think we like that idea. Anyway, they want to strengthen the response to complex global shocks and emergency platform. What a shock is obviously something that happens immediate, quickly, no warning, all of a sudden you get shocked. I'll go through the bill and explain it, part of it, but these are just the highlights from it. So you get an idea of what really they're doing. Now, a lot of countries, the main ones must have been told about this because you're going to find out they signed on to this thing. So I don't know how much they know. Again, the term, our common agenda. I propose a member state that we work together on an agreement to convene and operate an emergency platform. That's what they call this thing. In the event of complex global crisis, I stated that, quote, the platform would not be a new permanent or standing body or institution. It would be triggered automatically in crisis of sufficient scale and magnitude, regardless of the type or nature of the crisis involved. Once activated, it would bring together leaders from member states, United Nations system, key countries, groupings, which is interesting, that's probably the media, international financial institutions. I highlighted in red because, you know, it appears that the guys with the very big money are the ones who evidently has a big influence in the UN, one world government, regional bodies, civil society, private sector, the Bilderberger groups. And anyway, subject specific industry research bodies and other experts. This proposal would allow the convening role of the United Nations to be maximized in the face of crisis with global reach and should be agnostic as to the type of crisis, except if it's Israel hurting anybody, any Arab, then that's a major crisis. We do not know what type of global shock we may be facing in the future, although the probability of their occurrence is growing. That tells you right that. They probably have been told only about a Carrington event. I put this here for a reason. You can't have freedom of the press when these three main organizations have these members of the entire media in the United States. Google, PBS, I don't know what N is, Nation, and the New Yorker, ABC News, what's that, Time Warner, CBS News, CNN, Wall Street Journal, Times, I think the New York Times, Time Magazine, The Economist, NBC News, Wall Street Journal, Fox News, I can't read this one, New York Post, Bloomberg, FT, whatever that is, and Foreign Affairs, and New York Daily News. And it was the New York Daily News who put this thing together. All of these people may or may not have been told about a Carrington event. I'll tell you right now, none of them were told about Act 3 and the polar reversal, because they'd be behaving a lot differently if they were told, which means the elites, you can call some of these people here elites. People have asked me, how come YouTube didn't take me off? This guy, the head of YouTube, Google, he's a member of the Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations, and the Bilderberger meeting. By the way, I'll explain Bilderberg. 1954. Prince Bilderberg loved National Socialism. When the Nazis fell, he said, gee, their form of government is just wonderful. Government winds up giving you free loans, gives you maybe land, and makes it so that workers have to go to work. So we like that a lot. And by 1954, he brought together many heads of industry, and some involved in World War II. And he wound up making the Bilderberger Group. And Council of Foreign Relations, I don't know if it was the Rockefellers or who, that was 1921. The Trilateral Commission was, I think it was David Rockefeller, 1973. And this guy at a Google belongs to all three. He's one of the very few that have all three involved. So I think for that reason, I don't think that these people, any of them, were told about the polar reversal of Cataclysm. I think they're totally ignorant of it. When they find out, it's going to be very interesting. Whether they clam up or change their behavior or say, what the hell, what's it all for? But whatever their plans are and the UN long-term stuff becomes irrelevant, hopefully they're going to understand that. What's really going to happen is, well, I'll go on and you'll understand pretty soon. But this is the problem. We don't have a free press. When you have something like this, it's impossible. Now, I compared Senate Bill 4488 with this UN bill or proposal. They mentioned climate change 9 times. They mentioned COVID-19 or pandemic 42 times. So they think that Bill 4488 was done for this reason or maybe this reason. They weren't that smart. But the guy who did the research and put it together, I think he wrote between the lines, and I'm going to show you in a minute. Anyway, major climate event. Well, that's covered in 4488. if it's a Carrington event, or as you get closer to the reversal, the sun's output is going to increase. You're going to have more hurricanes, tornadoes, volcanoes, which I explain why. And so it certainly affects the environment. It's going to basically get hotter. But it's going to follow the sunspot maximum. So sunspot maximum is going to get hotter and then cools down a little bit. Future pandemic risks, event involving biological agents. This is really the same, and it's covered in 4488. Distribution of global flow of goods or people. Well, it is covered in the bill, 4488, section 6C, 2A, transportation sector. B, communication sector, they cover here. Cyberspace, global digital connectivity disruption. If a Carrington event happens and you have a good section of the northern hemisphere or part of the southern hemisphere, it depends on whether it's summer or winter for us. The electricity is going to get knocked out. You can kiss off the internet and electricity and producing anything. Anyway, unforeseen black swan event. I guess this was a shot in the dark for them. And finally, this is the one that made me laugh. Major event in outer space. Try not to laugh too hard. So that's what this proposal encompasses.
Folks, it's time to sound the alarm bells. The crisis that we warned you about is finally here, and it's far worse than we could have ever imagined. 3 banks have already failed, and who knows how many more will follow suit by the time we're done recording this video. This is the largest U.S. bank failure since the Great Recession, and the government is doing nothing to stop the fallout. The president and Yellen swore up and down that there would be no bank bailouts, but who in their right mind would actually believe them? They're part of the same corrupt establishment that has been lying to the American people for decades, and they'll do whatever it takes to protect their own interests, even if it means using your hard-earned money to bail out their buddies on Wall Street. Don't be fooled by their empty promises. They're selling you out, folks, but we won't stand for it. You need to take action right now to protect your hard-earned money. Consider moving your money into precious metals like gold and silver, which have already shown significant increases in price as more banks fail and investors search for a safe haven. So don't rely solely on the government to save you. You need to be proactive and take measures to safeguard your financial future. One option is to use a legal IRS-proof loophole to move your retirement account into gold and silver. We've got an exclusive free guide that explains how this loophole works and how it can potentially help protect your wealth and retirement savings. But you need to act fast. Download our free wealth protection guide right now and start taking the necessary steps to secure your financial freedom and future. Don't let history repeat itself. We saw the incompetence of the government in 2008, and we can't let them take everything we own again. Get your free wealth protection guide now.
One of the complex global shocks, we must be ready to respond to a range of different global shocks in the future. Climate change, they love climate change. If they can tax us of how much CO2 you're breathing out, they'll do it. It's all about money and power. Anyway, large-scale climatic or environmental event that causes major socioeconomic disruptions and or environmental degradation. Well, as the sun's output increases, like I said, more hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, fill in the blanks. And that would be the true. Of course, they're never going to explain to you why these things are happening because they never mention the sun. They don't mention the sun here once, nor in 4488. God forbid. It's the one place they don't want to go. This is the part that's also funny. A major event in outer space that causes severe disruptions to one or several critical systems on the Earth. Well, it could be a Carrington event or the nova and the polar reversal. This is all done with. The UN's gone. The United States is gone. There won't be any countries. So what it's going to probably be is every country for himself and every man for himself. And I think that's really what it is. And that's what I think they're kind of worried about for those few who do know the truth. A number of states viewed the proposal for an emergency platform positively and recognized its value in strengthening the international response to complex global crisis situations. By the way, this may be why the Russians have decided to push for more diplomatic strength in Africa, because they know they can stay in Russia. In April 2022, I convened a global crisis response group on food, energy, finance. Got to get the guys with the money that pays them off to pursue effective global response to the connected crisis and advocate on behalf of the most vulnerable. Do you actually think they care about the most vulnerable? No. We're all smarter than that. I invited 6 heads of state and government to be champions of the Global Crisis Response Group. They're going to be the response group and they're going to decide. Establish a steering group to ensure strategic coordination across the United Nations system. I'm going to have to explain something here. Oh, this is basically the Secretary General of the UN trying to grab as much power as he can. The United States, our structure is that we have a president, and the Constitution says he's in charge of the bureaucracy. In 4488, the amended version has 33 agencies listed. That's, of course, how they coordinate what they're going to do and how they're going to split up the money to build new shelters, because they can't use the one that they built too far north. Anyway, so that's what we do. Then the president tells me you're going to do it, and that's it. Except if you have somebody who has dementia and doesn't know which end is up. So what they had to do in the UN is basically they have to coerce a bunch of countries. So they pick the biggest ones and the richest ones to force everybody else or the other countries to do what they want. How to strengthen the international response to complex global shocks. We lack the necessary forms at the global level to tackle multidimensional threats in a multidimensional response. These words are long in the context of this paper, and I'm going to show you why later. Building on the ideas of our common agenda, which is basically control them and tax them for CO2, and learning lessons from these recent crises, I propose that the General Assembly provide, they're giving the power, Secretary General and the United Nations system with a standing authority. It's like passing a bill. Well, you already gave me the authority. I can do all these things. And to convene and optimize automatically an energy emergency platform in the event of a future complex global shock of sufficient scale, severity, and reach. Do you think they're actually going to get together and talk? just a couple of months or a year before the pole reversal, the sun's going to be acting badly, very badly. Do you think they're going to care? No, these guys are going to head for the nearest shelter, hopefully deep and near the equator, but they can and couldn't care less. That's why that led me to believe that when they put this thing in, they had no idea about the polar reversal and cataclysm. They only knew about a Carrington event and the resulting hurricanes and tornadoes and earthquakes that are going to happen before this thing happens. Decision to convene an emergency platform. The Secretary General would decide. He wants to be boss. It's so good to be king, you know? When to convene an emergency platform in response to a complex global shock. Relevant United Nations entities, specialized occasions, international financial institutions, they love the money. And the other multilateral institutions and agencies that have been mandated by member states to respond to the sector-specific crisis. Now, this word is correct. Multilateral is the correct word to use in what they're describing here, not multidimensional. This is almost the end of this. Factors that would be considered as part of the decision to convene an emergency platform could include severity of the crisis. Like, for instance, if Carrington event happened during our summer, we'd be getting, the Northern Hemisphere would be getting the aurora borealis, maybe down to the Bahamas. And you can forget about electricity in the northern states, certainly north of Virginia or North Carolina. You'd have some problems, but it is a hit or miss situation. Anyway, does it impact global economic indicators and or scale of environmental damage rather? Reach of a crisis, is it worldwide, or how much of the world does it encompass? Complexity of a crisis. This would include consideration of whether the crisis is, again, the word multidimensional, multi-sectional and interconnected crisis that requires cooperation across pillars and sectors. I don't know why they use the word pillars here. The word multidimensional is used 4 times in this policy brief. The word multidimensional, the root word is dimension, which means length, width, and depth. Go check the dictionary to believe, if you don't believe me. Dimensional means the act of measuring some 3-dimensional object. When I use it in my book, multidimensional reality, because I'm saying there's a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th, and 8th dimension, and they're separated by how much potential from the 4th going up has and how much information it can access and control. That's the difference. So that's why I use it. But using multidimensional in this kind of a paper in context makes no sense. It doesn't. Now, the writer, the guy who really did the research for this paper, if he searched on YouTube, I'm sure he did, and he found 4488, my video on it, he may have gone to some of the other videos and may have read some of the stuff. And he may have realized that's what's really going on. And he may be hinting at it by using multidimensional. In other words, the theory of multidimensional reality explains what this reversal is all about. Now, it's a theory on my part. I may be right, may be wrong, but it doesn't make any sense to use multidimensional in this paper. Now for the Russians. I was contacted by Ivan, he calls himself. This is who he works for. Hi, Doug. I'm a Russian journalist working for engrovector.com site. We published several articles and fantastic stories based on your research and Penny Kelly's comments on your work. One of the articles is here. Now, if you go to this or this one, you're going to see it's all in Russian. You're going to have to have Google do the translation of the page. And I did some here. I have it translated. If you want it again, ask me and I'll send it to you. But you can easily do it yourself. So anyway, this is it. We use micronova term suggested by Penny Kelly. She also said, sun is sneezing. That's one hell of a sneeze. To distinguish star death, well, it's not a death at all. I don't want people to think that. It is a clock cycle. It's done it since the dawn of time. Official theory. And temporary disruption. Well, it is a temporary disruption. That's as far as you got when it comes to being accurate. You can see Penny Kelly here, and I got rid of it because I watched the video. It's new age nonsense. I mean, she talks to the sun, has a conversation with it. She has visions of and be told by UFOs. At this point, I said, I have no idea what she's doing, but she wrote a book and she has to tell a story to get the uneducated to buy it. What do you think? So I ignore the stuff. Anyway, he did thank me for my work and he liked it. Anyway, this is the articles he's referring to that were done in Russia. What is a micronova and how to prepare for it. This was done in June 2019. I'll tell you how this came about while the Russians know this. I had been asked and did 4 interviews for Creative Society. Now, they told me originally that they're out of the Ukraine, but they were able to actually interview a Russian cosmonaut, and everybody else were Russians. So you can take it from there. What was interesting about the article, this is ancient transformer found in the Balkans. And here it is, the windings of a transformer. And it was found evidently in some archaeological dig of unknown age. Anyway, they start here with my stuff, describing it. And they have the 12,068 number cycle, right? And they basically went through and actually did a bio on me and a review of my work. So they've read my stuff.
At Amica, we provide you with something more than auto, home, or life insurance. It's empathy.
So glad you're paying.
Thank you.
Because at Amica, your coverage always comes with compassion.
This is the other article. This is, I guess, their magazine. Not for the ruling elites. And it looks like the Russians don't like the ruling elites either. We don't either. And it goes through the stuff, and all of a sudden, I scroll down this article. All of a sudden, I see this. A link to my part 2 of the very first one in series 4 I did. And this is part 2 of it. It describes the Ice Age and polar reversal. And it mentions my work and stuff like that. And I got the year right, which I'm happy. Others have not. Anyway, that's the end of this. If you build your shelter too far north, like some people are saying you should, the problem is you can build a shelter that'll take care of the nova, the dust show when it hits about 17, 18 hours later, and you can even take care of, the flood issue. But once it starts snowing, you're not getting out, and the ice age and the ice field over your head will kill you because you can't get out. And if you got out, this is what you're going to see. You'll be lucky if you see the mountaintops, especially in Appalachia. These things are going to be like maybe 15,000 feet of snow compresses down to maybe 1,000 or 2,000 feet of glacial ice. You're not getting out. So that's the problem. Remember, New York supposedly had 5,000 feet of glacial ice, Seattle, I know, had 4,000 feet, which represents 4.68 to 1 ratio. And that was a snow about 19,000 feet of snow. You're not getting out ever. So anyway, that's the problem. That's the end of it. Dial Foundation is a 501c3, a real science foundation by the IRS. Others have used various organizations to contribute to, and then that organization gives some of the money to the person, which doesn't have to follow any rules, and they can spend it any way they want, mostly in their pocket. So, but Dial Foundation has been around for about a decade or 2 decades. And you can actually go onto the IRS thing and see how we report. It's all public knowledge, and even the financials. Now we're so small, they don't have us file a return. It's called a 990N. I used to file the whole return, the old ones you could see. Unfortunately, that's what they did to make it easy for the bureaucrats, I think. But anyway, the money would be, if you donate money, which would be appreciated, it'd be used for this next stage which I'm involved in, trying to find engineering firms to design the door and build one. Anyway, I thank you for looking. I hope you learned something. And if you want copies of the UN stuff or the other things, just write to me.
Well, that concludes that. Thank you for listening.